Hello, welcome to another episode of Everybody's Lost podcast. So, today we are going to talk about something that I think is so important because how many times have you found yourself complaining about something and then you compare yourself with other person, other friend struggling with something more traumatic and you are like I have no right to complain about this because this person is suffering more than me and my problems are so small compared to their ones. So I think it's really important to talk about trauma and how trauma doesn't mean that it has to be something really traumatic or tragic to be considered trauma. So this is why here I have today Nancy Elliot. She's a psychotherapist, book author, screenwriter, producer, and more. I'm so impressed always by my amazing guests, everything they achieve. So thank you so much for coming, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. It's
Yeah.
good to be here.
So yeah, she's going to talk us a bit about her experiences in life, about trauma, give us expert advice. So just pop your kettle in or grab your coffee or whatever you are doing right now. Just like I hope you enjoy. So yes, my first question that I pointed out
Yeah.
is that people they have this concept about trauma is one size fits all and is like this concept of trauma. So you as a psychotherapist, how would you define it?
Well, the thing about trauma and definitions is that it evolves. So how we would have defined trauma 10 years ago is completely different to how we define it today. So today, I think we're at the point where we're looking at trauma and we're understanding and we're explaining this to our clients that trauma is not necessarily the event. It's not necessarily the event. It's more about whether a person has experienced a difficult event without an empathic other with them. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
idea that you went through it on your own, basically.
Yeah.
So, when we're growing up and we're experiencing issues in our family, with our parents, there's nobody to say, look, I know you saw daddy and I go through this, or I know that, this difficult thing may have happened, but can you tell me how you feel? Or let me help to explain that to you or unpack that with you. If we have to go through something very difficult that overwhelms us without any kind of
Mm-hmm.
other, then we would consider that to be a traumatic event.
Mm-hmm. Would you say like it's a resolved problem as well, no? Like something that you went through and nobody helped you navigate through it. So you still are navigating and you brought it along in your adult life
Yeah.
or if you experience in your adult life, nobody helped you with it.
It's a really good point, Veronica, because, the more, we have in psychology, we have building blocks to development.
Mm-hmm.
So the better you can negotiate each phase as we grow, the better equipped you are as an adult. So what you're saying is really important because if, as a child, we cannot process certain difficult or overwhelming emotions as children. So if we don't have the help to begin to say, actually, this was scary, but I'll be okay. Actually, I felt alone, but I'm not because this person is helping me to feel that I'm safe. If we don't have these experiences in that phase of our development, then as we get older and something traumatic happens, we don't have the resources to kind of pull from within us to say, look, I've, I'm dealing with this loss. So, but I've had a lot of, empathy and I've had a lot of comfort and understanding and mirroring and all those things children need. If we haven't had them, it's more difficult for us to navigate through difficulties in our adulthood.
Yeah, so do you think like your childhood indicates how you are going to overcome trauma, but also going back to this concept, that's also a really traumatic when you in your childhood were let alone or something, then something else happens and you don't have that those capabilities because you don't have the solid foundations to go through it, to find the power, find the strength.
And draw on the love. Love is something we talk a lot about in psychotherapy because, when you have your people, your carers, your primary carers, your family of origin pouring into you these loving, sort of gestures, this care, this attention, this time. It sets you up. It's like having credit in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So when you need to spend it now, like when you feel alone or you face a loss or you face difficult times, you have credit. You can draw on your money. You can draw on your on this all of this compassion and love you've been poured into as a child, and you can say, okay, so my relationship broke up, but I'm okay because I feel, I have a stronger ego because
Yeah.
it's been bolstered as a child. But for those people who leave childhood without a lot of those experiences, the ego is a lot more fragile. So when they
Okay.
do have a breakup as an adult, or a loss, or lose a job, or it's much harder to deal with because you
Mm.
haven't had that foundational love and safety sort of poured into you from the people that actually are supposed to do it. It's
Yeah.
their job.
Yeah. And do you think the key to overcoming everything in life is confidence? But that confidence, I think, is harder as an adult when you didn't have it since you were a child. If you grew up in a healthy family and everything was okay, you are going to go through life. Of course, things will happen to you, but in an easier route.
Yeah.
And then people who have a not so nice upbringing is like all over the place. You are struggling with your own self, and you are trying to find that patterns that you dragged along from like years ago, and then like is everything, it becomes so messy.
It is messy, but imagine. I mean, I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I've watched her develop. Let's say in her reading,
Mm-hmm.
and you start with the sounds and the phonics, and they slowly begin to learn how to read. Now, as you get older, um, if you didn't have that, say you left school very young, or you didn't get to go to school, or your learning, your education was interrupted, you're going to see it in your reading as an adult. So it's the same with trauma and childhood. You're going to see big holes and struggles and stops and starts, and a lot of confusion in your relationships and
Mm-hmm.
the relationship with yourself, if you have come from a place where you didn't have that time and the sort of the care and the support to learn how to really grow well.
Yeah. And so many people didn't realize that having like a not having your a father or mother figure, or seeing a lot of arguments at home is how you are going to identify love. There are so many things that affect, right? I wanted to ask you, because you are here podcast, I want to ask you, how was your upbringing?
Well, this is what's so interesting. And you said earlier that, the way we understand trauma,
Yes.
it's usually we think of, some very big,
Thing,
powerful, terrible
like an
events.
accident or
An
someone
accident.
passed. It doesn't. That's what I tell to all my friends, because for those of you who listen to my trailer or some things of me, my friends, they don't want to complain to me about the problems, because like you had this like massive traumatic event in your life, and I'm complaining to you about something like this, and I'm like, no, tell me please. And your feelings, what you are feeling, is completely valid. Even if you had a fortunate life, you had your parents, your feelings are valid. And maybe some people, they take longer to kind of overcome some traumatic event that is not considered so traumatic compared to mine, but it's completely okay. Like, you don't have to like punish yourself for complaining. You
But
are humans.
But it's true. But often, and I would go as far as to say often, it's a deflection. Our psyche is very, very sophisticated, and the job of our psyche is to what we call to keep an equilibrium, to keep a balance. It doesn't want too much change or disturbance. So often, I find with my clients, they'll say, I didn't have much happen to me. I've got no right to talk about this or that. But usually, it's the psyche deflecting, because they don't want to start looking at this issue. They don't want to have to go deeply into this Pandora's box.
Yeah, it's
So they're
hard.
deflect. Oh, look at the children in Africa. Everybody's always talking about the children in Africa. They're so hungry. Look at this. But it's really a way of avoiding looking at your issue. And the
Mm-hmm.
psyche will always provide us with excellent arguments. Psyche is the best barrister. Excellent arguments to avoid looking at things that have really hurt us or that have impacted us negatively.
And a lot of people, they want to distract with themselves. That's why, like, it's so hard. Like, I'm going to tell you my honest, like, truth. It's hard to go to a therapist because you know you are going to like pour your whole self, and it's easier for some people to go into some like unhealthy distractions, go out with their mates, distract themselves, rather than put the hard work and dig deeper with someone like you.
But why do you think it feels hard, though? It's interesting you say that.
Yeah,
Why
as
do
a
you
point
think
of
it
view
feels
of
hard?
someone who,
Is it
because
judgment?
it's not judgment, it's like, because, for example, me telling my experience, I telling to someone new,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell like my trauma and everything to someone new. It's too much, and it takes me a while to open up. And I did this. I open up here because, well, it's for with a purpose. But yeah, okay, like as a psychotherapist, you are paying, and that's what they are for, to help you. But this is still hard
Yeah.
because in one session you tell them, it's like, where do I begin?
Yeah.
How do, and it's, and what we have in common with all of my friends who have been in therapy is like, after you feel like, wow, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And like, yeah,
Yeah.
you and you put all your emotions out,
Yeah.
because you really need the help, and you
Yeah.
want the help, but
Yeah.
it's hard.
It is hard. I mean, I recognize that it's hard. It's hard also to sit in a space where somebody is looking at you in an analytic way. And so
No, I don't think it's the judgment, to be honest. Like, it's because I know you are not going to judge us, like psychotherapists. You are the person who will judge us the less. It's just putting ourselves and dig deeper. And
Exactly.
Yes.
that's what I mean.
Well,
I think.
analytical, yeah, like,
Because you know that,
yes.
then I'm going to say, but let's, I'm going to want to get to a place that's really helpful, and really gets to the wound. And I think that it's nice. It's easier to talk to people who will just listen and make a comment here or there, but it's harder, I think, for someone who their job is to get as deep with you about your wound. We want to get all the way to the end of it, so we can really, because if you can really count the cost of how you've suffered, then you can heal better. So I think some people feel very like, it feels quite, you just feel very exposed.
Yes.
It's like a doctor, you don't feel very well, but you don't really want to know exactly what's wrong. And they're going to give you x-rays, and they're going to give you blood tests, and they're not going to miss anything. And it can feel quite exposing.
Even some people, they want to, like, they know they might have a problem or something, and they want to go to the doctors because they are more afraid of knowing.
They're more afraid, and they rather not know, because
yes,
but they will tell the friend, this hurts or this hurts, but they don't want,
is a
because
bliss,
the friend,
they say.
exactly, the friend will say, oh, don't worry, or but the doctor will say, okay, let's take this seriously. And sometimes I think it's like looking in a mirror therapy. When you go to therapy, you've really admitted, I really need help. And I think sometimes that's hard, but I encourage everybody to see a therapist, because it's very, very helpful to have. My time is literally completely yours. I'm here to listen, to not judge, to hold a space for you. And we never go further than you are. We never go further than you are. So it's a really good thing to allow someone to be there for you in a way that maybe no one ever has been able to before.
Because also you are unbiased, so you don't know this person past, you don't know anything, and we can tell our friends our problems, everything, but they love you, they want the best for you, and they don't, but you don't know, so you give them like an unbiased advice,
totally objective. And but we care, and so there are,
like we care,
you care, and we do want, we try not to, but we do want the best. But we definitely, and I think also it's important to say here that for the most part, people who train to be therapists, you asked me about my upbringing earlier, have been through a lot.
Yes, and they want to understand themselves. I have all my friends who have studied psychology, they have been through a lot, so that's why they want to help people. So tell us.
Well, this is the thing. Well, this is why we have so much energy and time to constantly think about problems and stresses and pain and things that most people avoid like the plague on a daily basis. Most people are looking to forget problems, to forget about pain, and we are looking to dive into problems and pain. So you have to have suffered quite a lot to have that interest. For me, I think I was always analytic anyway as a person, as a
Yeah.
little girl. But I think what's interesting about my life is that I had a lovely life. You know, I came from a very privileged upbringing. And, but the problem is my parents were very dysfunctional. And so I had a father who was cheating on my mother all the time, and a mother who I understand now couldn't really find the self love to kind of choose herself. It was also a generation where, you know, families were, you know, with four children, women weren't just walking away like that. And financially, the male usually had, you know, the power, the financial
Financial
power.
yeah.
So there was a lot of dynamics that made it harder for women to walk away. I'm not sure she would have, but she didn't choose to. So I think that sounds really very sort of benign, you know, okay, so your dad was cheating, your mum stayed. But I think one of the things I want to emphasize here is that watching your parents um, in a relationship that is dysfunctional, in that they're not able to resolve issues,
Yes.
they're not able to choose themselves.
You never saw love. Like that's how you learned about love. That
Well,
love is like suffering, love
yeah.
is toxic, and you thought that was love, but that wasn't love.
But Veronica, it's worse because there I saw examples of love. This is worse. It's better to see pure difficult things, because I became confused because I said, but this, they're having a great time. We're having the best holiday.
Oh yeah,
And
like
they're so
they
loved
had a good time,
sometimes.
and then
So then I'm thinking, but so when I meet someone, I'm definitely thinking, oh, if these problems are coming up, that's part of love. It's easier to see no love. Then you grow up a little more clear about that was not love of my parents. But when you see it going up and down, sometimes good, sometimes it's very, very traumatic. And this is what I wanted to say about cumulative trauma, which is a word that we've coined recently around trauma, that we now understand it's not just the big loss, the big accident, you know, the violence. It's not those we saw as traumas, but it's the cumulative trauma. This often, you know, the frequency of fights and no resolve in the home, the frequency of, oh, I'm busy now, darling, you know, I've got to do this, I've got, you know, these seem like very little things, but you grow as a child, you're constantly being fed on this sort of narrative that you're not important, you're not seen, you're not heard. And these things can grow you into an adult who can suffer their whole life with not being able to have healthy relationships, friendships, and most importantly, not be able to, if you don't have anyone ever mirroring love and security and validation to you, it's almost impossible to naturally be able to give that to yourself.
and when you have been ignored, what you want to do is completely the opposite, like is anxious attachment or avoid. It can be like there's like these two concepts that are now so trending, and people they are starting more to know
understand,
more.
yeah.
Like anxious attachment and avoidance. So you can go like totally the opposite.
Yeah.
But it's most likely like you are like you want the love like you never had, because you are looking it into your partner, but then
Exactly.
you are also used to the chaos. So if someone brings chaos into your life, toxicity and everything, it's not like you choose it, because some people they think, oh, you choose it. No, it feels like home. You are like, it's comfort for you to have like a toxic relationship, have like really chaotic. You go into those patterns because it's all you saw. So actually to break free from it and go to a healthy relationship is much harder for someone who grew up in a dysfunctional family.
And I think that we have to be really careful when we start talking about healthy relationships as well, because one of the problems I personally faced was I was always looking for this healthy relationship.
Perfect or...
And that in itself is a problem,
Yeah.
because then we are looking for something that we will never find. So now it's not just about the trauma, it's about the incorrect idea around what a healthy relationship
because
is.
you want the opposite. It's like
I'm definitely
like
going to get, I'm not going to be anything like the parents.
Yeah.
So you're just chasing something that doesn't exist. So this is part of the problem. And I really, my book, you know, Single Girls Rehab,
Yes.
it really delves into this about how we can sort of have such difficulty on this road to finding a healthy relationship. But because there's so much information out there about what is healthy and how this man should be doing this and making you feel like this. And
And
we,
providing, now there are so many advice, like it's crazy. He should do this, he should do that, he should do this, she should do this, she should, like, honestly, it's not like, so yeah, tell us a bit like how, what you say in your book.
well, I mean, I say so many things, but in terms of, one of the things I say is, which happened to me, I was always, people say, why are you still single, at a certain age? And I would say, well, I haven't found the right person. And it just struck me, once I started to do all the work on myself, that I've never been the right person. And,
Exactly. You have to be the right person first and heal yourself. So that's why you need to go to the therapist
Exactly.
and heal your trauma.
Exactly. Because if I'm not the right person, I'm not going to find the right person, because nobody will ever be right, because I will make them wrong. I will turn something good into something bad, because that's where I'm comfortable. And so even the best of men will become the bad men, because I will turn them into that. And I want women to really, especially the younger women, to really understand that, and understand how, we have to take responsibility for what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
So I'm the sort of psychotherapist that's very interested in the female contribution to a relationship, because we have been misled and we're always thinking it's the man, and actually it's often us.
Honestly, like, well, this is fun. True, I'm going to say, like, every time I'm scrolling down, I am a Gen Z, so I scroll down Instagram, TikTok. Whenever I see like these advice tips of women,
so
how
annoying.
to become the black cat woman, but
Yeah,
I just
rubbish.
I scroll
Absolute rubbish.
straight away, because I don't want to feed that, because I just want a normal relationship that brings me happiness, but I also bring happiness. And I don't want to be like, oh, he has to do this to you, do this to that. No, you also need to be, if you want a good man, you also need to be a good woman.
But I think the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what issues am I bringing? What issues, even if you're single,
Exactly.
know yourself enough to say, this is what I'm likely to bring to a relationship. I can be quite jealous in a relationship. I have worked on myself quite a lot, but I still have that, because I had a father who was so unfaithful all the time. It's still hard. Trust is still hard.
Yeah, because if you saw that from you were a child and to your mom, and he hurt you, I think also that must have been hard. He hurt your mom, the person that means the world to you. So
and he meant the world to me too.
Yeah.
So can you imagine the mess in the head? That your mum and your dad, and so it's so the point is, it can all be very chaotic, and we can detangle and unpack all of that. But it's important for a woman to know, here's the things, here are some of the things I'm going to bring into a relationship, and I can only hope that I find a partner who will understand that, and who somehow we can figure it out together. But I'm going to bring insecurity, trust issues, perhaps clingy, neediness, not thinking I'm enough. As women, we also have to understand that we have been socialized in certain ways that impact how we feel when we're in a relationship. So there's nothing wrong with having issues. It's just being aware of them, and being able to say to your partner, look, I'm sorry I behaved in this way. This is where this comes from, and I'm going to keep working on this, That's all we can do. But all this black cat high value nonsense, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us at all, because we are just looking for this. It's not real.
Yeah, I think a relationship, and also it should be like a team.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, that's what I think. But if I go into opinions, of course, it's like hard. So also, like, you told me, like, you recognize well that you were jealous and everything. So how was for you in those teenage years when you were finding your first love, and you're finding yourself?
An absolute disaster. I mean, I think for me, but also I just want to say that your opinions are important, because if you have those opinions, then lots of other women will have those.
Yeah.
That's why, I'd love to hear them, because they are going to be an ambassador for other opinions out there. But it was a disaster. I mean, first of all, when I was young, I grew up in a nightclub. My dad had a very big, very popular nightclub in London. It was called the All Nations Club. It was like the first proper reggae club in London. And I grew up, my first introduction to women and men and relationships was in an environment where there's alcohol and dancing and it's all about being sexy or being seen or meeting someone.
Yeah, and
So
yeah.
you see what I mean? Like some girls grow up in a university, they may have, or they grow up, but I grew up in this environment where it's all about, it's a parade, it's a performance, and we're trying to,
Superficial because that's what you see.
that's
Like
what you see.
and I believe like in the nightclubs everyone is wearing a facade. Like
Absolutely. And yeah, I think so. Well, certainly as a child, it looks like a movie. Everyone's got makeup on and everybody's like looking their best and sitting their best. And so I thought, okay, like this is what it means to be an adult. This is what it means to be a woman. And this is what it means to have a relationship. You want to be seductive, you want to smile, you have a drink. So I really absorbed a lot of ideas about relationships, which were not helpful to me. So my childhood was one where I was always trying to perform in some way. And I was really much more, my energy and my attention was much more on the man than it was on myself, in the sense that I always wanted him to love me, to want me, to impress. So it was very important. I didn't have my centered energy on myself, as I have to, when I meet someone, I want to know who they are and I want to know if I like them. It was like, I want you to like me. So all of my, efforts were about, do you like me? Whether I like him or not, obviously I'd have to be attracted to him to some degree, but the goal was to make them really like me.
yeah, that's one problem women have, or many. It's like, do they like me? It's like you have to think about, do I like them?
Yeah.
You have to analyze. It's like, do I like these traits, everything, or it's like, it's just my ego that wants to be liked by him.
And it's also the goal for women. There's a time when men, were our survival. It's
They were in the chase.
Yeah, and they were hunting food.
Yeah.
So we still have some of these instincts, these primitive instincts of, I need to get you. Whatever I'm doing is secondary. My job, I need to secure someone to create a family and to provide. And I think, as I said, we still have some of these instincts. But now we're growing so much and evolving that it's really, we don't look at men to provide quite the way we used to. We have a lot more independence, a lot more spirituality. And I think that we just want to be able to know who we are first and what we're bringing. And we want to know if we like him or whoever, partner, and what we think. And it's not easy for us as women to move that attention from him or that partner back to us.
So yeah, like how in the nightclubs, I think, there's a lot of alcohol involved and everything. So also like you're flirting and being in the nightclubs and drinking, it became all involved.
Oh, definitely. I think for me, but addiction is something that also runs in families, I believe. My mum used to smoke.
Genetical.
They say this, but I'm not sure it's always.
You can change it as well.
Yeah. Even they say nowadays you can change so much with, this whole epigenetics and all this ability to even change your very, DNA. But I think that, drinking became a part of my life. And I think it became also a part of my life because things were easy to cope with when I was drinking.
I was going to say exactly that.
Simply. So I discovered something that made my life easier to cope with. And I loved that. And so I would drink and, even as a young girl, I'd smoke weed. We were all sort of smoke weed at college and stuff. And I didn't really think too much about it. And then I got to an age where I decided I needed to, the drinking was actually a problem in the sense that, and what people don't understand is you don't have to drink every day for it to be a problem.
Yeah, if it's because of routine and you black out.
Even if you don't black out. The thing people don't understand about alcoholic, if you're an alcoholic, you cannot drink for 20 years and be an alcoholic. It's not about how much you drink, it's about why you drink. And it's about what...
Exactly.
Why?
So for you and I think many of teenagers and people who were brought in dysfunctional families, like you and me, when we discovered alcohol, it's like, wow, like I am free, I'm happy, I'm out of this jail, I'm at home, you know, and I'm like,
it's an escape, and it's wonderful. And then you feel like you've discovered something, and initially it does start like in that way. But as you get older, you have to ask yourself, am I drinking every time to, am I drinking always to cope with something? You know, this country has a particular problem with drinking.
Yes, the UK.
Everybody drinks.
Well, I can see like the difference between Spain and the UK. Yeah, it's like the drinking culture is like just to get blackout and to
UK.
some people like they don't even eat because that way they get drunk faster.
Yeah.
I mean, in Spain we eat at least.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in Spain we are better or worse, but food is like we will never, unless if someone is alcoholic, think about not eating. But it's like,
I mean, I remember in Italy it's the same. I once went to a dinner in Italy. There was a big table of people, and they were talking about this wine. It's this wine from this year, and I'm just thinking, yeah, I couldn't care less where it's from, what it's called, when it's year. Just give me some wine, you know. And so we were, and I made a joke, you know. They were making jokes. Everyone's laughing. And I said, oh, they said, oh, this wine is something, you know, Merlot or some Chablis or whatever it is. And it's from this year and it's so great. And I said out loud, oh, you know, it doesn't matter about all of that. Let's just drink it so we can get a buzz or something. I said, I was quite young. And oh my goodness, the response I had at the table, because they just don't relate to alcohol in that way.
Well, yes,
They were, yeah, well, they have a sip to enjoy.
more slow.
They don't want to slowly, they don't want to just, you know, we just want to slam it back and feel the buzz, you know. And so culturally, we are a nation that is brutal with drinking. And because it's so common and prevalent, it's normalized. I mean, probably, you know, most people have a drinking problem here. But I think that I can only focus on, to me, I think a lot about addiction and how I'm really interested in our relationships. As a psychotherapist, that's my thing. How are your relationships doing? How is your relationship doing with yourself? And that's what I want to know. You know, that's what I want. How is your drinking affecting your relationships? How is it holding you back? What other drugs, whatever you're using, sex, that's another addiction. Food, another addiction.
I think it's like if you addictions is what like increases your dopamine in such a fast way and unhealthy, like it can be sex, because it's like without feelings, because like it's like a dopamine boost, ego boost, and makes you like distract from what is really going on in your life.
And you know, it's good that you talk about dopamine, because that's another thing we get a lot of in relationships, toxic relationships, when you have an argument and then then you get a text and then you get a hit. And so there's a lot of addiction to the dopamine ups and downs of toxic relationships, which we don't usually know about. That's why it's so hard to leave. It's like being on a drug, you know, and then you miss the highs. You miss the sort of the pattern of addiction that you have with this guy or with this woman that you're in love with. It's hard to go cold turkey.
It's an addiction, yeah. Your brain rewires.
It rewires, and it's like, I need that, you know. So then you know that if you send the text to the man you shouldn't be texting because he's no good for you, you know that
a risky text.
Oh, it's a very risky text. You know you're going to get a response maybe, and then I'm high, you know, it's free. It's
that person talks to you. It's like, some people they get nervous. Because it's something intermittent as well. Like it comes, goes, you don't know. It's like a reward thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think what I really want to emphasize today, I suppose, Veronica, is we have to take our relationships seriously, because what we do, because we end up living lives, we end up losing so much as we come to the end of our lives. And we wish, I wish I had done this. I wish I had had this many children. I wish I had been married. And it's such a big loss. You know, it's a big loss. And the reason that we end up not fulfilling our goals is because we have these issues around self-love and how to give and receive love healthily. So we need to learn this as young as we can so we can get on and create the lives that we want to create.
Yeah, we need to learn our trauma and our relationship with ourselves. Yeah. With alcohol, with
drugs,
people,
with love, with sex.
So with people who might have, you talk about sobriety and things like that, bad relationship with alcohol, what help did you get to get into sobriety and to truly love yourself, to see, I don't need this anymore, I'm going to work on myself?
So what I'm really careful about when it comes to being a therapist and sobriety and all these things is this idea that there's this final place we are. Self love is a journey that
Yeah.
will be on forever. And I think it's really important that we're compassionate with ourselves enough. There are times when I don't feel that I love myself after all the work I've done. It's just life. I don't want to, give unrealistic expectations to people. But life is wonderful, even though there are ups and downs. Okay, so I decided. I mean, my thing was I went into Alcoholics Anonymous, late 20s, and I decided that that's what would be a good move, and it was the best thing I ever did. And that's when I started to discover more about myself, my pattern. And I would really recommend anyone, and you don't have to be drinking every day, because I never drank every day in my life. You don't have to be drinking in the morning. What I've learned is that you can be drinking once a week and still know that that drink means so much to you at the end of on that Friday night that you've got something, you're really using something as a crutch.
Yeah, it's like it becomes a routine, or it doesn't even have to be a routine. Maybe like if it's something that is unhealthy, because let's be real, alcohol is unhealthy.
Yeah.
So yes, but it's really good what you said, and I think it's really important to say like there's not a quick fix or a easy solution or a forever solution, because for you it worked going to A&A, it worked for you, but I know so many people it doesn't work. So it's just maybe looking what works for you, and also being brave and going to the therapist.
Exactly.
And
Go
getting
to the
help
therapist
from someone like you.
Exactly. Because all we need really, I believe, is we just need to be able to understand that, like if we were on the sea, if we were having a boat on the ocean, there are going to be waves, but you can have the best adventure ever. Do not try to take the waves out of your life, because the waves help us grow. But there are going to be waves. And along the way, you have your friends, you have the therapist, you have your partner who just ride those waves with you. But don't look for a final healing, an end of the pain, an end of the problem. Just look to manage your life on a daily basis with the waves, with the people you love, and have a bloody good time, have an adventure. And that's how I look at it.
Wow, that's beautiful. So with this beautiful quote, beautiful advice she gave, we finished this. And
thank you.
Thank you so much
thank you
for
so much.
everything that you have
here.
like
we could
said.
talk forever, so much to say,
There's so many things to cover, but I think that's the main takeaways from this episode, is to first look inwards, look your traumas. Doesn't have to be like a really tragic event. There's cumulative trauma. Then when you look inwards with professional help as well, then see like at yourself, the relationship with others, and that there's not a one size fits all. As I said, like the trauma, or everyone is different and everyone is in their own path, and also to acknowledge suffering is part of life.
Yeah, and that's going to be so important for your mental health. Don't try to eradicate suffering from your life, because it's a part of it, and it's okay. Just find the people and situations and the fun things. Just it's all part of one beautiful big magic soup, and that's what I would say is important.
So thank you so much. If you are listening or watching this, please review my podcast on Spotify, or follow on YouTube or Spotify. It will mean a lot. And also comment what you think, what is the key thing, what you learned from this, what helped you if you have been suffering from something. And my DMs are always open, and also Nancy's DMs. So where can they find you? Where can my listeners find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Nancy Elliot Psychology. That's pretty easy. That's sort of my main contact, really. And once you get on there, you can see links to my books and to my websites and other work and workshops that I'm doing. So Nancy Elliot Psychology, but I think we'll put it in the link probably under the podcast.
Yes. And then you can find the podcast and myself, Everybody's Lost, on TikTok, on Everybody's Lost podcast on Spotify and YouTube. And my personal one, Veronica, is at She's Veronique. It's SHEIS Veronique, Veronique. So that's where you can find us. I hope you have a lovely day or evening. And yes, thank you again for listening. Bye.